Not satisfied.
This guy. I guess he
We're just going to wait another minute. The program says 7 o'clock, you can't start at 6:59. Okay, folks, please rise.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good evening. We're going to call this meeting to order. The first part of business is to announce 2 executive sessions, one on February 11th at 3 p.m. regarding personnel, and one tonight, excuse me, I'm getting hoarse. Tonight, it's executive session, which was 2/19 at 6 p.m. regarding real estate. The next order of business is to approve the minutes of the February 4th meeting. Yes, Brian?
Can you provide some color on the topics?
Personnel is roadmaster, and real estate is Spring Kelly.
Thank you.
I move to approve the minutes from February 4th, 2019 as submitted.
To a second.
Second motion.
Any comments from the audience? Seeing none, call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Next is the police report. Michael?
Good evening. In the month of January, the police department had 188 calls for service, which included the following: the investigation of 14 crimes, 4 arrests, officers conducted 31 traffic stops, and investigated 5 accidents. Thank you.
Any questions for the chief while he's here?
Thank you.
You working late tonight?
You should also mention you have a new report.
What's that?
You should mention that it's
Oh, yeah,
a new report.
well, that's what we did. I updated this report to provide a better overview of our monthly activities. So we changed up some of the formatting, and with the report now on the front page, we have the reportable crimes to the UCR and our service activity charts. And it's all available online at the township website, or you can see me, and I'll make sure we get a copy, and I'd be happy to go over it with anybody that's
It does
interested.
make it a lot clearer, easier to read.
Thank you, thank you.
Maybe for you, but I had a question when I was
Sure.
looking at this the other day. So looking at the service activity, and I'm looking at 2019, which is we're into our second month, and we had 15 alarms, but in 2018, we had 15 also.
That's actually for the month of January. So this is just the January report, Bernie. So
Gotcha.
this is just to show in comparison to January 2018.
Very good.
Okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Have a nice night.
Good night. Next is the approval of the bills list. Tonight, the township bills list is in the amount of $106,016.04. The reimbursable bills list is $3,202.40. And the reimbursable escrow release is $22,979.55. All three total $132,197.99.
I move to approve the bills list dated February 19th in the total amount of $132,197.99.
I'll second the motion.
Any questions from the audience? Brian?
you want to take Art first? You know, he's a senior person.
Art, you're up. Go ahead, Art.
I'll be behind you. Do I look over my shoulder?
That's dangerous.
I have a question here on plaster equipment. Batteries to the tune of $873. Why did we buy them from plaster equipment? That's John Deere. We couldn't get those at Mappin,
I'll have to inquire about that.
but usually it's a lot cheaper than going back to the name brand.
Okay.
That's the reason I'm asking.
Sure. Perhaps there's a specific reason for the road crew doing that.
Yeah, because
So,
those
okay.
size batteries are made by, and carried
Sure,
by Napa.
I understand. Yep,
All right, thank you.
sure.
Brian?
I'm going to follow up on to the battery issue. I did ask about whether we had checked with other people, and my initial response I got at that time, that yes, we had. Now, Art has got a different answer. I don't know. The other thing that I had about this is, you know, this is for a grader. We just replaced the batteries on the Gator. Both of them are vehicles that, you know, or equipment that isn't necessarily used a lot. And so you have a battery sitting there discharging. And at least one of them did not have any automatic, one of the automatic battery chargers, keeps them alive. I've got some experience with these things. I've got batteries that are like 5, 6 years old, no problems, because they stay on the automatics, they keep them there. In another life, I had experience with large batteries where the individual cells ran hundreds of pounds. Again, they went and kept them on chargers all the time. They didn't just charge them up and then let them sit there for a while until they needed them. And, you know, all I can say here on that one is, you know, we really, in my opinion, should be, you know, keeping equipment that isn't used regularly every day, you know, on the chargers so that the batteries stay in good shape and they have an extended life. And batteries these days have gotten very expensive. You know, the cost of lead controls at the manufacturing plants are not cheap. One item. The other one is I asked about the fuel oil at Griffith's house. And apparently it's been empty for about 5 years. So we've been heating, keeping electricity for the Griffiths house and not using it. Do we have some plans for its use?
Yes, if you recall, probably a year and a half ago, we discussed sale of that property, but it's being held up because of an easement that had to go through the property to get to the spray irrigation field from the Pulte development.
Where do we stand with that? Do you know?
They're working on it. Pulte, as far as the dedication for the plant, Bucks County is currently operating it, and they're working out the kinks of the plant right now. They need DEP approval on a few of the remaining fields. They do not have that yet, and we're asking for that information regarding the easements. Brian is aware of that as well, correct?
Yes, I did speak with their engineer about getting us the easement documentation.
Okay, and that's what we're waiting for before we can put up for
Yes.
sale?
Mhm.
We have to have the easement before we can put it up for sale.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
One other question, do we know how old those batteries were?
I'll find out.
Yes, Chris?
I was gonna suggest.
Chris, it's been a while since you've been here. We asked that you use the microphone too.
Oh, okay, sorry. It's really quick and easy to winterize a property and inexpensive. And even if you're gonna do it for a short period of time, I bet you'll end up saving money by winterizing it than trying to keep the utilities on. So all you need is a plumber to go in, know what they're doing, drain the systems, you're done. You won't have any frozen pipes, and I would suggest if the township wants to save money, that's what they should do.
And it's
That's a good
cheaper than fixing broken
It's
pipes.
cheaper than fixing broken pipes, and if it's gonna be several months before you're gonna put it on the market, you're gonna save money by not having to pay utilities over the winter time.
There you go. You didn't have anything to do tomorrow anyway, right?
I'm good.
Any other comments from the audience?
Davy Waters, Elkhorn Lane Road. On this first, American Trust North America, I understand workers' compensation for administration, secretaries, treasurers. What about the fire company? Why are we putting money in for the fire company?
We are required as a township to pay for the workers' compensation for our volunteer firefighters in our municipality.
Does Kimberton have anything? I mean, they come into our township too, don't they? Do you have to do that?
We
too?
do. There's a formula through each insurance company. We're billed for Ridge and for Kimberton.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the audience? Seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Aye. Next is a presentation by Chris Carroll.
Thanks for having me back, guys. I have multiple copies of this, and I'll be emailing my statement to Erica, so if anybody wants to get a copy, and I won't have any left, you can put it up on the website. So I'm not going to give it public speaking, it makes me nervous, so I wrote a statement, and then afterwards, if anybody wants to discuss it, we can go ahead. Good evening. I want to thank the West Windsor Township Board of Supervisors for giving me the time and platform to update everyone regarding the current status of legally protected classes in the Commonwealth. This is my third time discussing anti-discrimination ordinances at a Board of Supervisors meeting. I had hoped to announce that for the time being, there's no longer a need for such an ordinance at the local level. I had heard that Governor Wolf had issued an executive order under the Pennsylvania Human Relations Act that expanded the definition of the protected class sex, in quotes, to include sexual orientation and gender identity. Until very recently, I did not understand that Wolf's order only expanded these protections to state employees and contractors. Everybody else is unprotected. In addition, marital status is still not protected, even under the yet-to-be-passed Pennsylvania Fairness Act. Governor Wolf is still pushing for the passage of the Fairness Act and has bipartisan support to do so. The act would expand protected status to include sexual orientation and gender identity and expression. The problem is that the Speaker of the House, Mike Torsey of Franklin County, has placed the act in the State Government Committee, which is chaired by anti-LGBT rights Darrell Metcalf, and Metcalf has been blocking the vote. Unfortunately, even if the act came to a vote and passed, it would still not extend to marital status, leaving both married and unmarried couples subject to legal discrimination. Currently, under federal and state law, there are no protections against discrimination based upon sexual orientation, gender identity, and marital status. Businesses offering service to the public, as well as landlords, are permitted to refuse service and employment to anyone based upon actual perceived orientation, identity, and marital status. Heterosexuals, homosexuals, bisexuals, and married or unmarried people can be legally discriminated against. In my opinion, this is both unethical and immoral. Further complicating the issue at the federal level is deep disagreement between the Department of Justice and the Equal Opportunity Commission, Equal Employment Opportunity Commission. The EEOC has expanded their definition of sex to include gender identity and sexual orientation. The Department of Justice has not. Until the federal government and or the Commonwealth codifies additional protections, it falls upon local municipalities to do so in order to protect everyone from discrimination. To date, at least 44 Pennsylvania municipalities, including Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Westchester, Phoenixville, Kennett Square, Lower Merion, Royersford, Lancaster, and Reading have adopted anti-discrimination ordinances. The Owen J. Roberts School District has also codified their policy and banned discrimination against students and employees based upon sexual orientation, gender identity, and marital status. Imagine how progressive West Vincent will appear if we follow suit. Our community has always taken a progressive and forward-thinking approach in protecting and preserving our environment. This is something citizens on both sides of the aisle can agree upon. I believe the same modern progressive attitudes can be applied towards human rights. For those that worry about infringement upon their deeply held religious and or philosophical beliefs, please note that the Religious Freedom Protection Act of Pennsylvania provides for relief. At one of the previous meetings, some residents were concerned about being forced to rent to LGBT individuals. In an ideal world, fair housing exceptions would apply, allowing them to do so. But until codified at the federal or state level, it is up to municipalities to extend protections with fair housing-like exceptions. That is why I suggest we adopt an ordinance of our own design to mediate discrimination disputes with the ability to levy fines. Biological sex, race, skin color, religion, national origin, and familial status are all protected. It's time we add sexual orientation, gender identity, and marital status to the list. A volunteer human rights panel of 5 West Vincent residents could oversee complaints and attempt to resolve the matter. Complainants would be advised that the PHRA Commission is also taking complaints, but technically, the Commonwealth has no legal means to resolve them unless they are state employees or contractors. Again, our panel would have the ability to levy fines to encourage compliance. The U.S. Supreme Court may be hearing a case pertaining to Title VII and a definition of sex. So all of this may be moot in the near future, or not, depending on how SCOTUS proceeds. Meanwhile, suits in the U.S. District Court for the Western District of Pennsylvania and the Second Circuit have confirmed that under Title VII, sex includes gender identity and sexual orientation. I think it would be prudent to preemptively adopt a local ordinance until such time as it is no longer needed. The fact remains that discrimination against the transgendered has resulted in them living in almost 3 times as much poverty as other Pennsylvanians, they're at a 31% poverty rate, and double the unemployment rate, currently at 11%. 16% reported losing a job because of gender identity or expression, and 21% faced housing discrimination. 23% of Pennsylvania transgendered faced employment discrimination. There are LGBT people in our community. There are unmarried and married people living, working, playing, and shopping here. Owen J. Roberts had the foresight to protect their students and employees. Isn't it time that West Vincent did the same? That's all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
I have copies if anybody wants it. I can leave the rest here. Anybody else?
Any discussion, or just move on, gentlemen?
Move on.
I just want to say that my wife and I fall under that marriage issue. We were discriminated upon when we were adopting a young boy. So something like this would have facilitated. Now, granted, we don't do adoptions on a local level, but that's just, one incident. So, if people want to sit and think, well, I'm not any one of the alphabet soup, but these things are real and they do occur, and it can happen to just the average American. So, I would suggest that we take a further look at this and consider moving forward with an ordinance.
And I want to say that, in meeting with all 3 of you over the summer, I really appreciated you all taking the time out and coming out to listen. I think we had really good conversations, and my mind was open to people's positions, and I hope I opened other people's minds. One of the things that I know the primary concern about is cost, and if it comes down to a cost issue, I would be glad to, do a GoFundMe and raise the funds to cover legal fees on this. And I know that we have disagreements on implementation of this and how are we going to do it. But I think that, in the time being, because I don't think the way things are going in the country, I don't think we're going to need this at a local level eventually. I think that these things are going to become enacted at the state and federal level, but it could be years. And I think in the time being, we need to do something.
I agree with what you just said, Chris, but I'll take it a little further. I don't think, I believe that it's in the short-term future that some other body of government will take care of. I don't think this is a municipal issue. We do not have the court system set up to mediate such disputes. The state of Pennsylvania does, and certainly the federal government does. That's, as we discussed in the summer, that's one of my biggest hurdles over it, because, I agree with everything that you're trying to accomplish. I truly do, you know that. But it's just not our forte, and if we set up the commission, then my mind starts going wild, and that's what to the other folks in the audience, that's what I believe you were talking about when it comes to cost, because I mentioned that the original proposal was to be able to set up a 5-member commission that has the authorization to spend money and hire people without approval, and it just, it could get out of hand.
Remember, that original proposal was basically verbatim Phoenixville's ordinance. And I had said at the other meetings that I was flexible and that I think that we can work with that and modify it to allay people's fears and come to some kind of mutually agreeable resolution. I don't think, it doesn't have to be word for word the exact same ordinance as Phoenixville's.
I have another point to make. Rob, how many townships are in Pennsylvania?
I don't know off the top of my head.
Do you know, Erica?
Thousands.
It's like 1,800, I believe. I could be wrong on that number, but I believe it's 1,800. My only point for mentioning that is, you mentioned in your speech, 44 townships or municipalities have adopted something.
Yeah.
That sounds like a large number, and it is 44 bodies that had the courage to do such a thing, or whatever the foresight. But over 1,000 don't.
Right, but remember, some of these municipalities are counties that are doing it, so it encompasses all the townships. For example, Allegheny County has one at the county level, so that covers every single township falling in the county.
See, that's even that is too low. The county does not have, although they have a district attorney for prosecuting, we have no legal mechanism to mediate such things. That's
Why couldn't it fall upon the district magistrate, you know, if we get to hypothetically, let's say we set up a volunteer panel that doesn't have the authority to spend money unregulated, that would be overseen by, by the Board of Supervisors to make decisions on spending money, and they're volunteers, so they're not getting paid for their time. Let's say the volunteers can't come to a resolution between the person who says they were discriminated against and the person offering services, because that's the whole idea, is to avoid the court system. That's my idea, at least, is to avoid the court system and try to have people mediate these problems and come to a solution. They can't get to that. The commission could then go out and refer them to a magistrate, because magistrates settle these local differences all the time with people. Is that a possibility?
in my mind, I can't answer for the other two. Pennsylvania, the state of Pennsylvania has a court system
Right.
already set up.
Right.
All they have to do is mandate it.
Right. But they can't get out of committee because Metcalf won't let it come to a vote. So here we are, and our hands are tied by the people in the Pennsylvania Senate that are controlling these bills at the
The
state level.
federal court system also has that mechanism set up.
Right.
I get that
Right.
it's a I'm
I-
using it as a catch-22
Right,
scenario.
and we're kind of in the same situation at the federal level where the DOJ and the EEOC disagree on the definition of sex. So the Department of Justice is the one that runs the court system at the federal level, not the EEOC. So they're blocked too. So, I mean, just because there's no easy way out, does that mean, I don't think that means we need to sit here and just sit and wait for somebody else to solve the problem.
I don't believe it's at the municipal level, so you gotta,
How you been, John? So, do you have any feedback from Phoenixville? It's been a year and a half, 2 years since they enacted it. How's it going? What's it costing them?
The
Is
last
it
time-
solving the problem?
Chris and I met in July, and I believe this came up in that discussion, and either you or the gentleman from O&G Roberts said that there has not been any remediated cases.
Must have been Carl, because I don't have the data at my hands to make a statement like that.
I believe that was the case in July.
So it's not costing them very
But it
much?
was only, we gotta remember, it was still relatively new. It was, a year and a half ago that Phoenixville adopted it, I believe. So, but no, it's not like there was 50 cases tried in Chester County or anything
But
like
we
that.
Could we reach out to them to see if there's any
That's a good
specific
idea.
data?
Check with the county or Westchester.
It's entirely possible, John, that in fact, having the ordinance in place helps to reduce the opportunity for those conflicts to even arise.
I still think it's a federal issue, and if it's not a federal, it certainly is a state issue. We take years to fix roads. Imagine if when we start getting into that sort of thing, I think, anyway.
I mean, I don't have anything else to say, because I'm really here at, you guys are in control, right? And I'm just doing what you told me to do the first time, which is keep coming back, so here I am.
Bernie, you wanted the discussion after this, so if you'd like, let's think about it until the next meeting and then call Erica and put it on the agenda. Okay.
All right, and I'll let you know if anything changes, but, I think if Metcalf would stop blocking the road, it would pass, because it does have bipartisan support, and it protects everybody. It protects people that are straight, people that are gay, people that are, unfortunately, the married part is not in there. That needs to be added. I cannot believe in this day and age you can discriminate against both married and unmarried people. It doesn't make any sense to me.
I don't have the answer.
So,
Thank you, though.
you're welcome.
Next, we're going to skip over subdivision land developments, we're going to skip over old business and go to new business, the township building mold and remediation.
I move to approve Ecotech to complete the mold remediation for the township basement and offices, chief's offices, and the road crew office in the amount of $7,055.
I'll second the motion.
Erica, do you want to explain how this came about and what it's all going to do?
Sure. We had no doubt very wet season over the past year, and there has been some visible mold in the township building. Therefore, we had a company, INX, do a air quality analysis of the township building and our road crew office. And as a result of that analysis, there is an issue with our basement particularly. The basement has some visible mold that we need to have remediated, and we had slightly elevated but not unsafe, I wanted to be clear about that, levels within the township manager office and the main office within the township building. Otherwise, we are going to be looking at, looking at the mold remediation in the basement and doing what's called a high efficiency particulate air cleaning of those township offices and the road crew office, in addition to essentially taking out the contaminated material in the basement and doing this high efficiency cleaning and then putting an actual sealant on everything to take care of that issue. So the quotes I have before you include the mold remediation, the cleaning for all the offices, some testing, and a certification of that work. So we may have to look at the encapsulation of our boiler has some drywall that's going to be removed. So there may be some restoration we need to do and some other things within the office, just to make sure with the older part of the building, certainly that we're taking care of the air quality here at the township.
Any questions for Erica? Seeing none, before I do call for a vote, just, Erica, you correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
It was $7,055 for the lowest bid, the highest bid was $9,485.
Correct.
But Enotech, if I'm saying that right, also the proposal looked to be the most complete.
I agree with you.
So
Yeah.
it's not only the cheapest, but it appeared to be the best. Anyway,
Yes.
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Next is the Open Space Review Board appointment of Barbara Mueller.
I move to appoint Barbara Mueller as the EAC representative to the Open Space Review Board to fulfill a 3-year term to expire on 12/31/2021.
I'll second the motion.
Any comments from the audience?
Yay.
Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Next is the public comment on non-agenda items. Anybody have anything they wish to address the board with? Oh, you're taking it easy on us. Everybody awake back there? Man,
I move to adjourn.
I'll second the motion.
thank you, folks.
27 minutes. We've been going last meeting, it wouldn't be 1 hour.
The meeting you missed, it's on the 18th.
I didn't miss it, I saw it.
Yeah, good.
Can't set up, just sometimes when you guys.
It was
Quite a
short.
few processes.
I would have liked to see it.
Has to be in accordance with the town.
Like, do you mind just going through the meeting?
I didn't miss it.
They're either all in or.
Jacobson.
I'll let her do it, just make
Do you want bond totals or don't check?
This is our, this is what we're doing. Okay.
Yeah, I'll go with it. I would never support mitigation if there is gender identity. If you take that out, I'm wrong. But that is a thought, that's an ordinance, and that's new, and there's no way you can fight, you can, don't have law.
Is it, I'm sorry, I'm missing something. It's an ordinance on what?
Right. No, I know, the rest I'm fine with, the gender identity, I have problems, that's all. Think about regulating somebody's car. Think about what kind of problem that's going to cause.
It was misperceiving gender identities. That you, because I remember that stat problem, was, if you think somebody is not fulfilling.
Oh, that's it. Oh, all right. Well, I'm not so bad off on that one.
They were going to deny my wife and I the ability to adopt.
Good thing it's short, I'd rather
One
see
time, we were
that.
sitting.
By the way,